In public polling across numerous countries around the world, the color brown is consistently ranked as people's least favorite color. This crosses race, gender, age, and nationality. But why is that? After all, it's the color of chocolate. Well, the most obvious answer to this hypothetical question is that brown is also the color of, well, literal shit. But I am here to argue that there is a beauty to the color brown. After all, it's the color of cozy, warm Pacific lodges, teddy bears, hot chocolate, and double chocolate brownies. Most children are taught that if you mix all color paints together, you will get brown. In actuality, all pigment colors combined will produce black, while all light combined will produce white. But none of that matters if you're an elementary student playing with paint, in which the combination usually results in some sort of brown. A mix of colors turning into brown has led to the color brown essentially becoming what is arguably the default color of nature. The most common eye color is brown. The most common hair color is most likely brown or some variant of dark brown. The most common color for rocks and soil is probably brown. The most common color for fur is also probably brown. For this reason, this combination of colors that is one color known as brown has become the unofficial color of what is default, what is ordinary, what is common. One way to be boring is to be ordinary. Perhaps there is an alternative universe where the color blue or purple are as common as the color brown, and the people of that universe view the color purple as being boring and the color brown as being exciting. After all, with enough exposure, the profound and the beautiful will become the mundane and boring. Granted, I do not have the ability to produce alternative universes to prove this to you. Virtually every human culture interacts with the color brown, even the ones that don't have a word to refer to it. After all, as mentioned before, rocks, soil, animals, and even many of the people surrounding various other people are oftentimes brown. Early man hunted buffalo, bison, deer, rabbits, and a variety of other animals that were brown in both fur and feather. Being brown in most ecosystems is an advantage. After all, the bark of trees and bushes are brown, making it easy to camouflage. Damn, even most people have brown eyes and either brown or black hair. Brown is the norm. Vibrant colors are the exceptions. We can see brown pigments in cave paintings, oftentimes coming from umber, which is a pigment produced from oxidized iron, which produces a reddish-orange brown. Given how common oxidized iron is, it was fairly easy to obtain. This abundance in color and unrestricted supply led to almost anyone, given the right environment, having access to the color brown. This was in sharp contrast to the color purple, which during ancient times could only be obtained from snails off the coast of Lebanon, and as a result was very expensive. Given the fact that poor people have access to brown pots, clothing, houses, and other items, the color brown became emblematic of the poor and the lower classes. History is oftentimes written not just by the winners, but also the wealthy and the powerful. We know far more about the kings and queens of history than we do about the far more common peasants they ruled over. And it so happens to be that brown was the color of the plebiscite, the peasants, serfs, servants, peons, and slaves. Those with little power or influence, those whose names are lost to history, congealing in a mass of people who toiled the fields, who wore brown clothes on their backs, and by and large worked and lived in, let's just say, brown environments. Brown, being the color of the ordinary lower classes, would have it looked down upon for much of written human history. However, with the arrival of Christianity, this would be a matter of subject to some change. Friedrich Nietzsche claimed that Christianity had a slave morality, a morality that the meek shall inherit the earth. This was in sharp contrast to the gods of previous religions, which emphasized their power, oftentimes with extravagant color. Christianity's initial popularity with the poor and the downtrodden, those who wore brown rather than blue and purple, would eventually win this cosmic battle. For a rich man would have a harder time getting into heaven than a camel walking through the eye of a needle. at least according to the Bible. And it just so happens that camels are brown as well. For this reason, some religious factions of Christianity, such as the Franciscans, wore the color brown as they saw themselves as servants of the servants, the protectors of the weak, and those who spoke to the ordinary masses with brown on their backs. In their eyes, draping themselves in the colors of red and purple was the work of indulgence and possibly even sin. This was not always the case throughout history, though. During the mid-20th century, fascists in Germany would use the color brown as their unofficial color. The color brown, in this case, was used by people who thought of themselves as being the master race, as being superior to everybody else. Alas, this was due to the ease of availability of brown garments and clothing during war times, rather than any meaningful symbology. Now, throughout much of modern history, the advent of synthetic dyes led to once rare, very expensive, and status-driven colors like blue and purple becoming cheap to produce. This led to these colors being less coveted, as you can easily buy a blue t-shirt at Walmart for a cheap price. Just as a color swashing all of his color paints into one pile of brown goop, so has science and technology made all of the colors of visible light that were once very difficult to access as humble as brown.